You want to take a character, or you just want to argue on my scaling?
Oh, all right. I see what this is, man. You see me as like I debate on then, like
No, I
shit.
never seen you debate. I don't know who you are.
Yeah, sure. I'll just argue upon the validity of your argument, I guess. You can go ahead.
Okay, I think Saitama came up punching the opponent, however strong.
Okay, so when you say one punch to any opponent, what do you mean by that? Can you go ahead and give the context of that framework?
Have you seen One Punch Man before? Yeah.
I don't think that
Basically,
exactly response to the point I'm trying to make. I'm just like asking,
it
like,
it it
what's
it,
the
it,
context of the framework?
it it's the context of the framework is the explanation of the story. So if you watch the
Alright.
story, it showcases that Saitama can just defeat his opponents in one punch. Hence, he can defeat my bad any opponent within one punch. It's kind of known everywhere. Like that's basically what he's known for. Is in
You
character
just go ahead
very
and
good.
prove that.
That is shown. Hey yo, hold on. I sent the link to Popstar. I'm gonna get it. It's like a whole entire compilation of them doing it. Here you go.
Alright. Armor. What
You,
is this shit?
you
Is this
still
like just
debate?
your main scan?
You still
Yeah,
debating this
that's the
nigga?
only scan I use. And other
Uh,
things, I might need other things depending on the point.
yeah, I love debating this seiba dude.
I don't know who he is. This my first time ever, you know.
Nah.
Okay, wait, can you go ahead and give a justification as to why this would work on like external beings to his story? He's like
Oh, like outside of his verse. I think I came to this conclusion due to the fact that there's within the explanation of the scan. Hold on. When you read the explanation of the scan or like the implications, it doesn't entail that it can't be used outside of his verse. So due to that, I can just uphold the idea that it's evidence. I'm supporting the idea or conveying the idea it can be used outside of the verse.
there's also like a evidence of absence, which also suggests that he can't
That
also do
what?
it.
That yeah.
Wait, hold on,
What?
hold on, hold
Well,
on.
hold on. Wait.
Also,
I got it. One question. What evidence entails that he can't do it? I'm confused.
Yeah, what's good, Mona?
that doesn't
Uh,
state he can do it within an external verse. Can you go ahead
that's
and
not.
prove?
That's
Hold on,
not.
hold on, hold on, hold on, hold
That's
on, hold
not
on, hold
evidence. I'm
on,
just
hold on,
saying.
hold on. I didn't say it, Vince. I was gonna ask. Can you go ahead and prove it does work on external beings? Like, because last time you asked for the
I gave a point
justification.
of justification on
Can you give a
why.
justification on
I think the description of the ability, if the ability itself is stating the limitations, or yeah, it's making it clear of the description of the ability. That's what the scan is doing. And I'm saying within the description of the ability, it doesn't entail or convey the idea it cannot be used outside of this verse. If the author is given the description between a character, or yeah, if the author is given the description upon a character and his abilities, I think he would make that said thing clear if it cannot be used outside of the verse. That's the whole point of being an author and like explaining how the story works. That's what the
you
scan
wait,
does.
ask you a question. Do you agree inconsistencies can exist?
That's completely fine. I don't think it would like defeat the argument.
Okay, so your argument is just that he can one punch any opponent, right? Okay, so I believe the Boros fight where Boros managed to
Hmm.
survive a punch from, I believe that
Right.
would just contradict that scan in the entire attribute of that said story of the narrative. So go ahead.
Not
What?
necessarily due to the there's multiple instances on where like Saitama does not one punch a character within a fight, but I don't think that would entail that he
Okay,
can't.
then
I don't
that
think
would
that would that
just say
I don't think that would entail that he can't. To even dispute my argument, to even contradict my argument, you will need
wait,
to
can I ask you a
provide
question?
you
Why
hold on,
would
hold on,
wait?
hear
Why
me out.
wouldn't this be?
I'm finna explain. Due to the fact that the scan is merely saying it's possible for him to do this, I proved that it was possible. I proved that he can commit said action. You showing the instance of him not doing it would just coexist of him being able to do the action anyway. For an example, just because I didn't swim today at all, that doesn't mean that I can't swim at all. I can still go on other days and swim, but that doesn't mean that I don't have the ability to swim. That's basically what the scan is saying.
Okay, so
Or that's what I
that's
get.
that's just wait, hold on, hold on. These are two distinct things. I'll just attack the analogy real quick.
Go ahead.
So, for example, right, we know that within the set analogy in that framework that you didn't swim that day, but then you could just swim another day, right? But how does that
Mhm.
exactly correspond to the ability itself? The ability itself is like per se being affected onto another being. It's not necessarily being casted upon the own being itself. Because here's the distinction between the analogy and the ability. The ability is affecting other beings and how it
Mhm.
works, while the analogy only applies to a singular essence rather than it is, onto the other being. So it still would infer a disputing argument against it because we already know from the Boros fight he managed to punch the
Right.
said character and he survived that said punch. So that would just convey an inconsistency within that said statement and just
Mhm.
give a the reason to posit a contradiction within that said author statement, and then also, it being shown would just like provide an inconsistent set within the said framework. So, yeah, I already explained why the analogy wouldn't correspond to the
Right.
said ability.
Mhm.
Therefore, that would just make the analogy disanalogous by itself.
Exactly. But there's the confusion with it. Now, I don't think that most people understand how analogies correspond to another situation. When you provide an example, you're just demonstrating how these two examples or two instances correspond with each other in essence rather than face value. When we take these two instances in face value, obviously they're not going to correspond. In one instance, I'm talking about swimming, in the other instance, I'm talking about fighting. But to fit the context of fighting, I would just say that, okay, well, um within boxing, right? Within boxing, I can defeat this opponent. Well, yeah, I can fight today, which involves another essence of an individual. However, that doesn't mean just because I didn't fight that individual today, that doesn't mean that I can't go and fight him another day. Things like that, and etc. What else? What else? What else? Oh,
Yo,
that's
am I
pretty
allowed
much it.
to respond real quick, or are you still talking?
Yeah, you can respond.
Because like I'm just trying to be respectful, like
Yeah,
I don't want to like cause any beef. I
yeah,
just so I believe within that boxing example, it doesn't exactly correspond to that again. Am I permissible to explain why, or do you have
yeah. Go
another
ahead.
counter
Yeah,
instance to that?
you can go ahead and
All
attack it.
right, man. All right. Okay, so that analogy itself only involves fighting, and while the said example you provided, which was the said scan, which stated that a character can just one punch any character, right? So when we refer to the analogy, right, corresponding to the said what was it, the scan? Sorry, I have to mention. So when we refer to that, right, the set analogy doesn't involve the set ability or correspond to how the ability works. It's just telling us a specific example, which doesn't exactly give the context on how the ability would work, because we know the analogy, right, is supposed to convey a similar thing to describe something, but it's not exactly the same case or framework, right? Right.
Yeah.
But within the instance of that analogy, it's just saying that there's a temporal distinction between a day and then another day where we could just fight someone, right? But that doesn't exactly give contextual information upon the ability itself. It's only describing a framework where fighting is being presented. That doesn't exactly, give the context as to how the ability would still work even after the inconsistent set is already proposed to us.
Mm,
As we see, Boros is getting punched, right?
mhm,
He survives that set punch. The ability describes the character being able to just one punch anybody. So when that punch is presented, right, that ability would just correspond to these instances of how Sakama used the ability. Therefore, there's a correspondence within his punch and the said statement itself. So it would apply to that specific frameworks where he uses these punches, but that analogy itself only refers to fighting, which doesn't really convey upon the ability itself. Like we already know, like there's they said hold on, lost track of thought. Give me, you could just go ahead and give your
yeah.
corresponding reputation.
I probably didn't make it clear, but when I brought forth the skin, when you actually brought forth this refutation, I said it was completely fine for this said thing to happen due to the fact that it isn't causing any sort of actual inconsistency nor sort of contradiction. Because if there were some sort of inconsistency with the statement, obviously it would be false. But then again, that inconsistency would have to entail that he can't one punch some sort of opponent. So just because he didn't one punch Barros or Garu, that doesn't mean that he can't, right? That's why I said so. To even defeat my argument or put my argument into question, you'll have to explain why he can't. The scan strictly states that he can. It's merely possible for him to do this said thing. So there being instances where he don't, but it doesn't automatically entail that he can't, which means that it's impossible for him to do this. It's obviously not. I've shown statements and I've shown it happening within the verse. So it must be possible. He must be able to do this. So that's why I don't believe that him not one
Okay,
punching the
so
character wouldn't do anything.
can I
You good? Go
ask you
ahead.
a question? So once
Yeah.
we're referring to possibilities, are you talking about specific frameworks? And if so, which frameworks are we applying these set possibilities to? Are we talking about nomological possibilities, metaphysical
Obviously not.
possibilities,
No,
or
I think logical possibilities.
okay, so you do realize that logical possibilities cannot have a present and a contradiction, right? Since we already established that we're appealing to logical possibilities in that specific modal scope, there's already a set contradiction within that said scan, right? Not inside the scan, but there's external validation which shows that this said scan is already going to be false. Because the assert external validation is going to be the Boros fight itself. It's possible that he can do this, but it's already affirmed that he can't automatically do this to any opponent, as shown with Garo and Boros. That's already presented a contradiction. And if we're appealing to logical possibilities, there can't be a contradiction within this said logical possibility, or else there would be opposing statements within these said set and just make it inconsistent with each other. And we know by definition, contradictions cannot exist. So if there's a contradiction within that logical possibility, we can't really say that's going to be a logical possibility itself, since the external validation already validates this as a said contradiction. God. You there? You there?